Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Monday, September 29th, 2025, and this convergence of speech laws and digital identity and the 2030 agenda will dominate the show today. It is going to be, we have to talk about all of that kind of stuff. Cousin marriage in the United Kingdom? Yes, obviously, because they're trying to destroy the family. And again, this kind of ties back into the 2030 agenda. The 2030 agenda is eugenics. It's all of these kind of historic things that we thought we had gotten rid of have come back with a vengeance and just changed shape a little bit, changed form a little bit. And we're being bamboozled, unfortunately. I wish it weren't so, but man, it is. And so we're kind of screwed. And behind the eight ball on a lot of it. So the Telegraph is talking about how cousin marriage in the United Kingdom strengthens wider family bonds. So I don't know. That's probably not a good idea, right? And that's culturally an Islamic thing to do. And the UK didn't used to have such an open mind about cousin marriage. Weird. Diana Carey, or Carney, excuse me, is addressing the United Nations. What kind of official position does she have? Did Melania address the United Nations? Have wives of other prime ministers or presidents address the United Nations? It's a weird thing to see. I've got that later on. Global News tells us to ignore the parliamentary budget officer, and the parliamentary budget officer is giving the Conservatives a whole bunch of ammunition, according to David Aiken. But isn't what the parliamentary budget officer is saying, the fact that it's unsustainable, our finances are unsustainable, isn't that a bigger deal than giving the Conservatives ammunition to use against the Liberals who have destroyed our entire economy? No, it's unsustainable, the spending that they're doing. And the takeaway is the PBOs words are being used to attack the Liberals. And that's absolutely wild. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to talk about digital ID and free speech and all of that kind of stuff. The 2030 agenda I've got a little bit later. Net zero is kind of related to that as well. Communism and the push for that is also related into the 2030 agenda. And then we've got how dire straits Canada's finances are in the middle here. So I don't know that we're going to make it out of the digital ID free speech section for the free show, but we'll try. We'll desperately try. Anyway, did I say there's lots to get to? Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Buckwell says, Bill C-8 is extreme censorship and must be stopped. This is insane. A minister will never tell me what to do. You work for me. And this is a piece of news I showed you yesterday from Matt Strauss. You need to be very concerned about Bill C-8. It allows Mel Joly to kick anyone off the internet with no trial and no warrant. Worse, you won't be allowed to say you've been kicked off. This is the Emergency Measures Act on steroids, only permanent and secret. So, yeah, pretty concerning. Lion Advocacy says, under this proposed new law, C8, combined with existing FinTrack rules, someone could get kicked off the internet and debanked with effectively no legal recourse and without even knowing why. Can't access funds to get legal representation to fight this unconstitutional law? Epic is what he says, but I don't think so. Yeah, yesterday I was on, and we're going to talk about this later in this series of tabs, but I'm just going to bring it up right now. Yesterday I was on this space with Sean Newman and Clyde Do Something and What's Up Canada, and that's Wayne, and We're Offended, You're Offended, and RB Ham, and it was a fun space, but I could not enter the space. As soon as the space started, I joined, but my mic didn't work. I couldn't be unmuted and participate in the space. And then ultimately I could never join the space. They just turned it off on me on my account that I paid for on X. They just turned it off. I couldn't join. I thought it was my computer. I have multiple computers at my workstation here. I share the mouse through software that shares the mouse through the network rather than any kind of wired connection. So it's two different computers. I tried on three different browsers across two different computers, all the same thing. I logged into a different X account. Holy smokeronies, logged right in, no problems whatsoever. It's censorship. It's targeted censorship. And they know it. And I messaged support, right? I paid for this account. I messaged the support and said, hey, I'm supposed to be on this thing and it's not working. Can you help me out? They still haven't responded. They don't care. They don't want to respond. They are censoring in real time actively. And that's very, very concerning. And if you don't understand the implications of that, There's no laws that back this up. They can't do this, but they're doing it anyway, and they're going to get the laws passed and then apply them retroactively. So they say they've never done anything wrong. But right now, they are censoring over top of my supposed charter right for free expression. I don't get that. I'm not allowed to have that. And that was demonstrated yesterday. I got around it, but they're gonna plug those loopholes as digital ID. When you have digital ID, you won't have another account, a burner account that you can just log in and use. You will only have the approved accounts that the digital ID is tied to you. And if they don't want you able to have access to that X chat space, and X is supposed to be the free speech platform, it's not, right? They don't want you to have access to that, then you won't. I didn't already. That's illegal. But nobody would even take that lawsuit. The government will win, Mark. Okay. So everybody is going to be in this boat that I'm in now, and you won't have any recourse. You can't do anything because there's nothing to do. You either have to do what you're told or you get depersoned. That's where we're headed. I wish it weren't so. Holly Doan says, subsidized anti-hate expert blames Blacklock's reporter for review of its federal funding. Executive Director Evan Balgord told Podcast he thought Blacklock's was really cool until it began reporting on anti-hate network activities. So this is, in my opinion, a threat, like, hey, you better back off, or the anti-hate network is going to be interested in what you're doing. Here is, in Australia, they've banned kids from under 16 years old from accessing social media, and it's not working. And so they're trying to pivot. And this woman's saying the rules are changing. Of course, people who are under 16 can use social media, on their parents' iPad that's been left open in the living room. And it seems like we desperately want to control your everything. And we're going to try and find the right balance. And then when we find the right balance, we're just going to go balls to the wall with it. That's going to be the new standard. And the balance is what people will tolerate combined with the censorship they want to impose, right? So here's Australia and the changes already on the social media ban for kids.
Changes to the under 16s social media rules. It's just been announced, and they're really unexpected. First of all, they're not checking everyone's age now. They're just going to do random spot checks because they said checking everyone's age seems unreasonable when the platforms already have so much data about our age. Plus, under 16s can now use social media as long as it's someone else's account and a shared device. So
this makes perfect sense. Did you post this? No, it was my kid or maybe one of my kid's friends. I don't know who uses my social media account. For your safety, comrade.
If mum's Instagram is open on the family iPad, they can use it. This feels like a big backflip, doesn't it? And here's why it's occurred. Because there's been so much pushback by parents and experts, including myself, that the restrictions in their current form just didn't work. There were too many ways to work around it, like hello VPNs. Plus, similar kinds of restrictions have recently been brought into the UK and other parts of the world, and they just aren't working very well. So under 16s still won't be able to open a brand new social media account as of December the 10th, but they can still use it. I think this change in direction also shows how difficult it is to introduce these blanket kinds of restrictions on social media or technology, which is in this constant state of innovation, and we as users are also in a constant state of innovation in our uses of these devices.
Sure. Constant state of innovation. I think you get kind of locked in like music, right? Like the music you heard when you were like 15 to 25, that's some good music, and all the new crap is just crap, right? So like, same thing. I have some technologies I like to use. I'll adopt new technologies if the new technologies are good. But I started with Dig, and then I went to Reddit. And then these are websites that I used to frequent. Dig used to be good until the super users took full control of the front page. Reddit used to be good until it was a steaming pile of crap, which it is now. Twitter used to be good until it was a massive censorship machine. So I'm waiting for the next Dig-like thing to make itself apparent. It's coming. It's just taking its time because the internet is being censored in real time. Dead internet theory is not wrong. And in the absence of a better platform, people just stick with what they know, right? People will go to Facebook because that's what they do. They'll go to the websites that they usually go to because that's what they do. Some people do stumble upon, some people do certain things. It's like a bar you go to, right? You know the people there, you like how they talk about things, and you keep going back. But people change how they use these things, and you're not going to stop people from getting access to the internet if the internet is ubiquitous, right? Like, I'm not going to scan my eyeball for access to the internet, or I'm going to find a way to scan somebody else's quote eyeball, right? Like, I'm not going to steal somebody's eyeball and like scan it to access the internet. That's crazy town. But I'm sure there are other ways to do it, and I'm sure that they'll be cheap and plentiful on the internet, or maybe the dark internet. But these people are not going to win because they're not creative, right? And people who are put into a pressure cooker, well, that's how diamonds are created, right? All of a sudden, you become stronger because of the pressure put on you, right? And the government's the one putting the pressure on, so they're creating this mess. They asked for this. Wide Awake Media says, do you honestly think it's just a coincidence that the digital ID is being rolled out in lockstep in country after country at the exact same time? It's not a coincidence. It's a centrally coordinated supranational, which means outside of above countries, right? So it's not even national. It's not like Canada-wide. It is worldwide, supranational, all the nations, supranational agenda being rolled out by compromised national leaders at the behest of globalist technocrats you never voted for. That's the third level that I keep talking about, right? Our leaders are the second level. They're controlled by the third level, which is the technocrats at the top, and they are the ones driving the agenda. And they place the people in the second level, and the people in the second level better do what they're told, or they won't be in that second level for long. Here's Whitney Webb. This is 2 minutes talking about what's going on with digital censorship, and I think she's mostly accurate about what she thinks is happening. I don't even think it's being hyperbolic.
Here's the thing about the biometric entry-exit wall. This is something that is not just happening in the US. It is being rolled out and promoted in lockstep throughout the entire Western world. The European Union is implementing it starting this year. The UK is poised to do it in 2025. And it is essentially part of this broader agenda to impose digital identity or digital ID on people. And digital ID is something that a lot of people in Trump's base and people that were dissenters during the COVID era were very opposed to, because this was, vaccine passports were fundamentally the trial run for a global interoperable digital ID style system. And that's essentially what these entry exit systems will be. And it's not something that's just they're trying to do on the physical terrestrial borders of the US. All ports of entry, including airports, are going to have this, or they're hoping to impose this on people. This new paradigm for identification for travel. And obviously, as was reported during, the COVID era with the vaccine passports, the goal is not just surveillance, but restricting people's freedom of movement on, in the case of vaccines, whether or not you've been vaccinated. But that, of course, opens the door to anything, potentially even, your social media posts or your online activity, your travel should be restricted, or from the net zero carbon market side of things, if you've spent too much, you've traveled too much this year and your carbon footprint's too big, your travel's being restricted and all of that. All of that functionality is currently being marketed to the exact segment of the population that was against it during COVID, and they're trying to frame it with rhetoric and with crises where they think they'll consent to this system, because obviously the digital ID system only works if there's mass compliance.
Yeah, they need us to buy in. So they start shooting up churches and say, listen, if we had a digital ID, the churches would stop being shot up and set on fire. But I don't think that's true. Here's Camus, and he's highlighting a Whitney Webb conversation. This was a longer one. I think this is the one where she talks about the introduction of Charlie Kirk. Maybe not, but I think it was with this. I don't know that it was this 5-minute segment, but I think it was out of this interview with this guy. That's not Molyneux, is it? I don't know if it is. Anyway, Camus says, as Whitney Webb outlines, the plan is to inextricably link a formal government ID linked profile to your internet access, ISP, and social media accounts. The goal, a centralized database of everything you read and consume online, all under the guise of solving bot activity and illegal migration. Who's behind it? They don't want to solve illegal migration. They wrote a compact for migration and rolled it out in 2018. We talked about that last night. Who's behind it? The push traces back to entities like the ID 2020 Alliance, founded by Microsoft, Accenture, and the Rockefeller Foundation, now folded into larger alliances with the same funders. This is about creating a global system of financial and social control. The sales pitch is tailored. To the right, it's a tool to stop illegal immigration. To the left, it's a shield against hate speech and a way to protect children. The system will appear vendor agnostic with different providers in different countries, but all data will be exportable in the same format to the same centralized database. This is the illusion of decentralization to make a truly centralized control grid. The digital ID is the key that unlocks the next phase, programmable, surveillable digital currency, both CBDCs and private versions from banks like JP Morgan. It's the foundation for a public-private partnership that will determine your ability to participate in the digital economy and society. We already saw it. And people stood up and said no. And this will be more difficult to resist because they are going to just hand it to you. They're going to say, here's your thing. It's already attached to you. Don't even worry about it. Don't even think about it. Think about how they rolled out the voice biometric confirmation. I opted out at my first opportunity, and I've stayed opted out. Every time they talk to me, they're like, oh, we're just going to push this button real quick, and then you say hello, and we're going to get you on voice verification. And I said, if you push that button, you can cancel my effing service. And then they say, what? And I say, I don't want voice verification. I have my voice on the internet, and people can steal it. I don't want that, and I opt out. And they try and push me onto it, but I say absolutely not. But that's the kind of adoption. They're going to say, listen, your social insurance number is your digital ID. Look at all these things that you can get with your digital ID. You could get money. You could get services. You could order services right to your door. You could get a bus to your door. You could get this. You get that. They're going to partner with municipal. They're going to partner with absolutely everybody they can. And they're going to try and shove it down your neck. And they're going to try and say it's better. It's easier. It's more convenient. Everybody likes it. Your friends are doing it. Your friends' friends are doing it. We're doing it. We'll do it for you. That's the kind of, it's like fast. And they want to, like, I was around when checkbooks were ubiquitous. Everybody was using checkbooks. And then the checkbooks disappeared in like a weekend because they rolled out debit cards. It's fast when people start adopting these things. Fast and unstoppable. They will do everything they can to get that kind of adoption. Okay. Think when everybody got an iPhone. It was like everybody wanted an iPhone and like 2 people in your circle had them, but people in your circle had them and you could see them and you could touch them. And then everybody had them. And now everybody's got them. Same thing. That's what kind of adoption they want. That's what they're going for. Do not comply. Pass it on. Okay. The only way they succeed is if we adopt their software. If we adopt what they want. Camus says, Bill Gates argues for digital ID to fight misinformation, but let's be clear about what he's really saying. He's framing this as a safety issue, deep fakes and anonymity, but his solution reveals the true goal, ending online anonymity to create a permission-based internet. His complaint that criticism of him is worse because of anonymity is telling. His trusted digital ID system is about control. It creates an internet where dissent can be traced and silenced under the guise of provenance. The system and behaviors he wants compliance. It's a blueprint for digital petition, shielding the powerful from accountability and turning citizens into perpetually identified, trackable users. This isn't about truth. It's about control. Yes. And they have a lot of control and they want even more. This guy says, what happens if nobody signs up for digital ID? And the first 1 or 2 days, he says, nobody signs up and everybody just abandons the system. That's not what's going to happen. If all of the people of the United Kingdom agreed and said, no, we're not going to do this, there are a whole bunch of people who live in the United Kingdom who are supported by this government who will only be able to access their supports through digital ID. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to sign up enthusiastically. They're going to sign up and they're going to create a false signal that tells people that you better sign up for this because, you know, maybe space will run out or something like that. And so in that way, what this guy's outlining, he says, nobody here, I'll just let
You will get a digital ID. You have no choice. But what if we do? Imagine if the whole of the UK decided not to sign up to the mandatory digital ID. Here's what would happen in the first 30 days. And by day 30, that's when the story really begins. Day 1, the rollout begins and nobody signs up. Millions are expected overnight, but online portals sit empty, mate. The press call it a national act of defiance, and the government are just sitting there looking shocked. Day 2 to 4, system stalls. But people start to adapt. Pharmacies go off book, doctors start handwriting notes, employers pay cash in hand. On the ground, life goes on, just not in the way Labour planned it. Day 5 to 7, benefits freeze, universal credit, pension, child support, but...
See, but there's going to be 1 million or 2 million foreign Brits who are on the dole, who are signed up, and the pensions that are being frozen are the people who are saying, no, we're not going to comply with your digital ID, which works great for the people who want to freeze you out of your digital society. They've already got you frozen out. They're setting up a civil war. They're setting up a situation where they're paying foreigners and freezing tax-paying British people out of their society. And that's treason. You can't do that. And yet they're doing it. So what are you going to do? That's like saying, you can't shoot that gun at me. That gun's illegal, as the gun is pointed at your face, right? Like, dude, read the room, right? Like, James says, rather than mandatory digital ID enforced on the public, a better use of mandatory digital ID would be for our politicians and our governments to be surveilled and monitored. They work for us. I think there's no excuse to not have, if I'm the premier of the province, you will be able to log into my email and read every email that I've sent and received on my government email, and all my ministers and everything. And the only caveat of that would be something that's in current negotiation. Like if I'm negotiating with whatever, then maybe those current negotiation emails wouldn't be public. But as soon as it's done, as soon as it's a done deal, it goes right into the public box, and you can have a read, you can follow along with everything. Like there's no excuse. If I'm the premier, I work for you, and that's it, full stop. You should have full oversight. Greg Wycliffe is talking about what's going on at the University of Winnipeg, and Francis Widdowson and Page Wizard Games were out there doing their Change My Mind, trying to have conversations with university kids. And again, this is in the speech section, and bullies and people who are trying to shout these people down were activated in order to shout these people down and remove them from the conversation. And that's very, very scary. And so here is Greg, and he says, a mob of angry orange shirts shows up on campus to intimidate Frances Widdowson at the University of Winnipeg on Friday. A cameraman got punched, her sound system got water poured on it, and they poured a can of soda on Francis's head. And apparently native gang members were there as well. Francis and others faced assault on a university campus for all for questioning the mass graves narrative and attempting to have a Change My Mind session with students. This trend of violence and bullying in response to debate is only growing in Canada, and if political leaders don't take action and push back against it, this will only get worse. Yeah, that's the truth. And here's more footage. Francis Widdowson says, you will be held to account, University of Winnipeg. And this is just an example of the insanity. The woman in the black shirt recording is Francis Widdowson, and the woman, the overweight woman in orange, is a paid activist. Yep, pretty wild stuff, right? These people are... I don't think they're acting in good faith. David says Ottawa is abusing access to information law to avoid releasing documents, Information Watchdog says. So if you're trying to hold the government account and you ask them for paperwork and information, like I did during COVID, you get a $47 million bill. No joke. Still got it. Holly Doan says filing complaints is now a routine part of the process in retrieving public information. By the end of June, the watchdog had an inventory of 2,294 complaints that had yet to be determined. Pretty wild stuff. Pretty crazy. I've got to say goodbye to the stream coming up, but I wanted you to hear this. Ryan says blocking traffic at one of our busiest tourist destinations, Niagara Falls, setting off smoke grenades from bridges. There's nothing these individuals can't do as long as they carry the Palestinian flag. And here is the AG and Justice Minister, Sean Fraser, saying, no, we're going after the memers. We're not going after the people disrupting our streets and bringing violence to our country. Not them. No way. Those people are protected.
What do you mean by reasonably confused? Because concerns we're hearing from some Muslim groups is that like a Palestinian flag could be flown outside during a protest, and a police officer might confuse that for Hamas's flag.
Yeah, look, thank you, and that is such an important clarification. So when we are dealing with a terror organization that has a specific symbol, we would be targeting that. But when I say reasonably confused, what we're trying to target is someone who would tinker with an image slightly to make the argument that in fact it's not the symbol, when in fact the intent is to still promote hate through the use of the symbol that may not be observable easily in the circumstances. So this is not about to be clear, this is not about a Palestinian.
So if you put an image out and we don't like it, we'll claim that it is a terrorist image and we will take it down, and you don't have any recourse whatsoever to say that's not a terrorist image, you are misinterpreting it, or you're not understanding what you're looking at. Here is Grok, and I don't believe in AI because AI will feed you what you've fed it. If you say, I think the government's doing X, Y, Z, I think people are doing this, I think people are doing that, and then you say, what are people do? What is the government doing right now? It's going to say the government is doing X, Y, Z, blah, 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 all the stuff that you like fervently typed into it. So it doesn't really provide links to its outcome here, but it says the conversation is Canadian government censors Canadians on X, true or false, and it goes through like it has been proven that direct government requests are made by government agencies to X, and there's a framework for that, and even a dashboard has been made, blah, 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 legislative framework and censorship framework. So there are a whole bunch of concerning indications that speech is fully censored online already without the legal ability for them to actually do that. They shouldn't be able to do that. We have freedom of expression, but they say, oh, well, not really, right? Only freedom of expression up to this point that we decide. And after that, that's hate speech and you're going to jail, buddy. Or you just can't use it, right? And that's scary, scary stuff. This is the Rumble, the guy who is the founder of Telegram. Did I say Rumble? Sorry, founder of Telegram. And he says, about a year ago, while I was stuck in Paris, the French intelligence services reached out to me through an intermediary asking me to help the Moldovan government censor certain Telegram channels ahead of the presidential elections in Moldova. After reviewing the channels flagged by the French and Moldovan governments authorities, we identified a few that clearly violated our rules and we removed them. The intermediary then informed me that in exchange for this cooperation, the French intelligence would say good things about me to the judge who had ordered my arrest in August last year. This was unacceptable on several levels. If the agency did in fact approach the judge, it constitutes an attempt to interfere in the judicial process. If it did not and merely claimed to have done so, then it was exploiting my legal situation in France to influence political developments in Eastern Europe, a pattern we have observed in Romania. Shortly thereafter, the Telegram team received a second list of so-called problematic Moldovan channels. Unlike the first, nearly all of these channels were legitimate and fully compliant with our rules. Their only commonality was that they voiced political positions disliked by the French and Moldovan governments. We refuse to act on this request. Telegram is committed to freedom of speech and will not remove content for political reasons. I will continue to expose every attempt to pressure Telegram into censoring our platform. Stay tuned. So it's being censored in Canada too.
And